Good morning. I am recording now. Okay,
Good to see you.
good to see you always. So, what do you think? What do you think about my video?
Well, I'm very excited to delve into standards 4 and 5. And
Yes,
as always, let's start with how do you think it went? And I know you wrote down your thoughts on your reflection. It'd be great
yes.
to start from your reflection too. How do you think
Okay,
it went?
yeah. So, I think it went well overall. I do think that on a positive note, let's start with there. I was able to build on their prior knowledge because they had been working on place value for a while,
Mhm,
right? And then we started into the language of money or the language of numbers.
mhm,
And I believe, ultimately, I believe they understood place value a lot more. And so I should have gone farther sooner.
mhm.
But overall, I think it was a pretty good lesson. I
Oh,
think so.
excellent. What made you say that there was space to go farther?
Uh, I think I just got the impression
Mhm,
after I looked at the video and saw some of the faces,
mhm.
it was almost as if, yeah, lady, I already know this. You know what I'm saying? Like the facial expressions.
That's really interesting because remember we were looking at their spiral review, and
Yeah.
I love the way you started your lesson with, hey, we've been looking at your spiral notebook. There are some definite glows and
Hmm.
also grows to do because
Yeah.
some of them have been missing this type of question on their previous work.
Hmm.
And so I think in your lesson, you asked questions in such an intentional and scaffolded way, it made it easy for them to respond with a correct answer because of the way you questioned.
Mm.
So I think the focus on reading the numbers was a good one because
You
it was
do?
responding. It was
I-
responding to their errors.
Okay. And
Mhm,
there were a couple misconceptions in class, in session,
mhm, mhm, mhm.
but I feel like generally,
Uh-huh.
I don't feel like I challenged them enough in that lesson. I
I
think I could
see.
have pushed them. I think I could have pushed them a little farther. And one of the things I wanted to do, or I thought about doing, was okay, what if they came up with their own number?
Oh, look at that. Yes.
Okay, like let's say I put them in breakout groups
Mhm, mhm,
and they came out up with their own number
mhm,
and they used their whiteboard. You know, they had a leader of the group.
mhm,
Um, they would come up with a number, maybe even in the millions. That
mhm,
way, people were getting challenged at the level they wanted to.
mhm,
And then they would write out that word
mhm.
and we would share it. Uh,
Oh,
come
yes.
back in the main session and share it.
Mhm, mhm.
Um, I
That
think
is
that,
such a good idea.
yeah, I think
Mhm,
that would have helped
mhm,
folks who had already understood the concept push
mhm,
it farther,
mhm,
extend
mhm,
it.
mhm. Yeah, because when they were responding with all the correct answers, it was for the digit. When we were asking about the digit,
That's
so
true.
what digit is in the thousands place? What
Mhm.
is in the 10,000s place? So
Mhm.
it was very clear they knew the
They
order of
knew,
the
yeah,
place values.
right.
And then if you would uh, send them into breakout rooms where they could write the written form, that
Mhm.
is the area that, yes, I agree, it would challenge some of them uh,
Mhm.
to push
Yeah,
themselves more. Yeah.
yeah. But overall, I think it was a good lesson because
Mhm.
I was able to bring in, what is it that they wanted to do when they grow up, and I
Mhm.
think that really connected them,
Yeah.
engaged them with the lesson.
Mhm.
Hmm.
That was awesome. I thought that the shape of your lesson was really great. Like your arc, you started with something that was very high interest.
Hmm.
Like, what do you want to be when you grow up? And not only that, you gave everyone time to respond either out loud or in the chat box. So that
Hmm.
was a great use of technology.
I like
Um,
that. I like
and
that.
then you used what they said in your lesson. So it wasn't just something off to the side.
Mhm.
You helped them understand that number in context. Like, would you want to earn that much amount of money? Or, and would you like to stay in college for that amount of years to get
Right.
the degree. And so
Yeah.
one context was positive,
Uh-huh.
that number is good, and the other was negative, and that context in that context that number would not be so good. And
Mhm.
then the shape of your lesson, you ended with, remember everyone, context matters, and then you repeated the main teaching point. So
Mhm.
that was very well done and well designed. That was awesome. Great
Very
focus.
good.
Yeah.
Yeah, I had fun with this. Of course, numbers are fun for me.
Hmm, hmm.
So this was a fun one. This is a fun
Hmm,
one for
hmm.
sure.
And
But I really just feel like if I had challenged them more, and I, okay, so when I'm teaching, I do a great job based on my lesson plan,
mhm, mhm.
but I'm not always listening to what they're saying.
Uh-huh.
So I have to do a better job of actually listening
Mm.
rather than being so stuck to my lesson plan that I can't deviate if there's
Mhm.
something that goes on.
Interesting.
That is what makes me freeze,
Mm, mhm,
because if something doesn't go as planned,
mhm.
then I freeze.
Uh-huh.
So that's why, sometimes the technology is difficult for me.
Mhm, mhm.
I don't even want to go there because of that.
Uh-huh. That's interesting. It's I see what you mean. Your lesson would hit standards 4 and 5, and
Mhm.
then at the same time, based on what the students are, how they're responding, you want to be able to kind of adjust to their needs, whether it's to slow down or to challenge them further. Yeah,
Exactly.
I get that. Hmm.
Hmm.
That is very astute. I think that's something all teachers are working on because you have your target in mind, and then you
Yes.
also have the students and how where they are.
Yes.
Yeah. Hmm.
And obviously, okay, if you create a lesson that's for the kids, for our
Hmm.
friends,
Hmm.
and they don't get it, or
Hmm.
there's something that's going on during that
Hmm.
lesson that tells you they're
Hmm.
not getting it, or
Yep.
something that tells me they are and I need to
Hmm.
extend it,
Hmm.
I need to be aware of that.
Hmm. Hmm.
And I think I'm not plugged into that. I'm just
Hmm.
like, follow the lesson plan, follow the lesson plan. And I think I just need to give myself room to deviate.
Hmm. Hmm. I think you're somebody that really uses data to inform how you move. And so when you had Socrative at the end of the lesson, it
Hmm.
confirmed your sense. Hey, I think they know some of this already.
Mm.
And I saw on Socrative, 17 out of 17 were logged in. So they were all on task.
Yes.
And then you did very cleverly mention one or two people who had put the wrong answer, and you
Hmm.
talk them through why that may not have been a good choice. Now,
Yeah.
the first question that I thought was interesting was you explained why answer C would not be correct. But
Hmm.
then I noticed you pivoted for the second question. You said, Nora, like,
Hmm.
why do you think answer A is not correct? And so I really liked seeing how you put the ball back in the students' court and
Hmm.
had them reflect on why that answer could could be improved.
Sure.
So, yeah, but I think it was great to wait for the actual Socrative data to confirm, hey, my feeling is they could use the challenge, and then the Socrative um, showed they mastered what you were trying to teach them, which is awesome.
Well, and in that respect, perhaps I should start with
Mhm.
an entry ticket
Mm.
to gauge based on what I see
Mhm. Mhm.
my lesson, and then maybe that will give me an idea of,
Mhm.
okay, they got this. Now,
Mhm.
what can you do to extend it?
Mm. So you mean like if you would have given Socrative earlier in the lesson
Yes,
to
like
confirm,
at the beginning of the lesson.
and then you would have been like, hey, they in order to challenge them, we can put them in breakout rooms,
Yeah,
use the online whiteboards to do the written form.
right.
That's very clever.
Hmm.
That's very clever.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And
I can see.
in that case, I would not want homogeneous groups. I would want
Mm,
heterogeneous groups.
right, right.
Yeah.
And can you say more about why you would make that decision?
Yeah. I just feel like the students who are doing really, really well,
Mhm.
could help support the students who are not. They could develop their leadership roles in heterogeneous, I'm sorry, yeah, in heterogeneous,
Mm-hmm.
as opposed to, huh. I always debate between hetero and homo
Mm-hmm.
because I definitely see the benefits of
Mm-hmm.
hetero.
Mm-hmm.
Well, there are benefits for both,
Mm-hmm.
but I think the benefit is greater for the at grade level, below grade level
Yes.
when they're hetero.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
At the same time, I feel like, okay, my above grade students, my above level students, am I challenging them? Like,
Mm-hmm.
what do you use to, how
Mm-hmm.
do you differentiate when you put those breakout sessions together?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Do you usually use hetero or homo?
So that's such a great reflection. I try to do both.
You do.
Not always well, but I think both have their positives. So
Right.
for like book clubs, that is homo. So
Mm,
if you're if you have a text and then there's a mixed group, maybe some people will think the text is too hard, some people will think the text is too easy. So for
right.
book clubs, it's homo because the text is just right enough to challenge that group of students who are at a similar reading level. But
Okay.
then for inquiry for the explorers panel that you led, that
Yes.
was hetero. So it was a mix of different students of different reading levels, different writing levels, and they had each chosen different explorers. And the
Mhm.
hetero is good because they could share their research with each other
Mm,
and they could learn new information. Like if they would have been in homo groups with all the explorers the same, they would have just heard their own research repeated back to them. But because they
mm.
were in hetero mixed groups, they could hear research from different types of explorers and extend their thinking that way.
Okay, so it wasn't hetero based on level, it was hetero based on explorer,
Yeah,
correct?
yeah.
Yeah.
And
Okay.
interests. Mhm.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, that makes a lot of sense.
Mhm. I agree with you that in the math lesson, it would be good to do randomized hetero breakout rooms for math. But
Mhm.
then once we do the ticket and we see who still needs additional scaffolding, then that group can be homo. Like these are the students that, although I've scaffolded a lot, they still are missing the concept.
Mhm.
And so it's kind of like an intervention based on their
Ah,
need. Mm-hmm.
so you would do the entry ticket,
Mm-hmm.
and then based on that information, you would break them into hetero,
Mm-hmm.
and then do solve a problem,
Mm-hmm.
and then do homo.
Yeah. And then the other students who don't require the additional support, they can go off and continue their thinking on the learning experiences that we've created for them. So they can just go off on their own
Mm,
independently. Mm-hmm.
mm. Now I can imagine right now. I'm
Mm-hmm.
gonna freak because I'm gonna freeze. Take the information, analyze it, create the groups. I can see that being a problem for me. I'm not very good on the fly. So I don't know,
I
what's
think,
your
I think you're
advice?
getting better and better, and you're so warm. Well, a lot of times, oh, I think I might be frozen.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Okay, wait. Can you hear me now?
I sure can.
Okay, awesome. A lot of times teachers will take an additional day to create the groupings. And so with the exit ticket, they look at it after school and then make the groupings and then the next lesson. And that can help with, like freezing because you give yourself more time. Um, but if it's a lesson you're very familiar with students you're very familiar with, you can make the decision on the fly.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And if it's a new concept that's unfamiliar to the students
Mm-hmm.
and you need more time to look at the data, I think you can just do an exit ticket
Mm-hmm.
rather than an entry ticket, and then you can make the groups after school.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, the other thing about the entry ticket, what you can do is take students' errors from their spiral review,
Mm-hmm.
and you can take their name off and say, hey, would you agree with this person's response? Yes or no? And then that can help you gauge how much they know about the content. Yeah.
I like that.
Yes. Um, and then, Channing, I wanted to ask you about the application of the content. I saw you did it with your discussion with the careers, and I saw you did it on Socrative with the moon and the distance between DC and Shanghai. Can
Mhm.
you say more about why you integrated that into your lesson?
Well, I knew that I knew that I wanted to express the content. That's number one. But I also wanted to integrate other things that we had been
Mhm.
thinking of and talking about. So I knew our explorers, a lot of them had done space adventures. So that's why I picked the moon.
Interesting.
And then obviously, we
Mhm.
love Chinese. DC to Shanghai was just an obvious,
I see.
obvious tie-in for me.
That's excellent. So it was integrated with inquiry and then also with the context of our school being Chinese immersion.
Hmm.
That's really good for standard five for application of the content, making it relevant to them.
Right, right. That's what I want.
Mhm.
I think the biggest fear is that when you're in school, you're like, come on, when am I ever going when am I going to use
Why
a
use
fractive?
this? Right, right, right.
You
Mhm.
know, so that's one of the things I want to make sure I always talk about is
Mhm.
how it's relevant in real life.
Mhm. Mhm.
Yeah.
Mhm. That's amazing.
Mhm.
Nice work on that. And then I think I wanted to circle back to standard for content
Okay.
knowledge.
Uh-huh.
Um, I really enjoyed your use of Socrative to check for understanding and also your use of a non-example example. And then, like we talked about earlier, the arc of your lesson, it was very clear what your target was. You started with um, the context of numbers and you ended with the context of numbers. And then the last thing I wanted to share was another thing in terms of our when we ask questions, like when we ask what number is in the thousands place or what number is in the 10,000s place. This is a small detail, but um, we can tell students what's the digit that in the thousands place, what's the digit in the 10,000s place. Because oftentimes you'll see students at this level, when we say number, they sometimes think it might mean digit, or they might think you mean the value of the digit. And
Ah,
so if you ask, hey, what's the digit in the thousands place? They can say four, like digit four. And then you can say, what's the value of digit four? Oh, the value is 4,000. So it's just like a small detail
well,
that
that
helps.
would help
Mhm,
Helen, because remember how she said the
mhm.
number was in the middle, which is true.
Yeah.
The number is
Mhm.
in the middle.
Yep.
I
Mhm,
think that would have definitely helped her for sure.
mhm, mhm.
And you said, what's the non-example example? You said I
Oh,
used the non-example example.
right, right. You were saying, so would I say this number 282, 494? And then you're like,
Oh,
yeah,
okay.
good. But the accurate way to say it, and then you broke it down to, 282,000, was it
Yeah.
494?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Okay.
Mhm. So that was fantastic. It showed them like what isn't
Mm-hmm.
the spoken and written form, and then what is.
Okay,
That
that's
was that
great.
was really great. Mhm.
Cool.
Yeah. So
I had fun with this one. This was a fun one.
you did
Oh,
you
they're
did
all
so
fun.
many great things. I think yes. Yeah, I was very impressed because your technology use was amazing. You were checking in, give me a thumbs up, thumbs down if you see my share screen, use the chat box. When Paxton answered, you also said, oh, Billy also said da 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 in the chat box. So you acknowledged everybody and how they expressed themselves, whether it was to you or in the chat box. That was really cool.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And I know those were not standards 4 and 5, but I thought like from your previous two lessons I've seen such a great growing. It's amazing.
I'm still working on it. I still have a lot to learn, but I was very proud of myself.
Yay, me too.
Yay!
It was amazing.
Yeah.
Also, I think one thing you did really well, standard 5, which I don't do enough, um, and I learned a lot watching you, was making it relevant to students' lives. So the
Mhm.
way that you designed Socrative, the way that you asked the questions and use the chat box was really cool. Yeah.
I like that. I like those two questions.
Mhm.
And I actually spent time thinking about the question, not just, okay, here's a number and
Mhm.
tell me what it is.
Mhm. Mhm.
And I think that that tied in. It would have been great if I said explorer. Who
Yeah.
if Neil
You're,
Armstrong
uh-huh,
was traveling to the moon from
uh-huh,
DC to the moon, that would have been
uh-huh.
cool.
Oh, Joshua would have loved it. Yeah.
Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah.
Mhm.
But Channy, congratulations on such a thorough lesson and so
Thank you.
intentional. It was awesome.
Thank you. Thank you, thank you, thank you. I wanted to make sure that I put on record that that
Gosh, it was just so many great things, not just standards 4 and 5. I'm so proud of you.
Oh,
Yeah.
thank you so much. Okay, well, I'm gonna stop recording now,
Okay,
but
sounds
thank
good.
you so much for your feedback.
Thank you, Channing, for your reflection and your thoughts too.
Cool.